But first, today's long-awaited naval announcement from the Albanese government. Now, given the state of the world and our region in particular, this announcement has been far too slow coming. Indeed, the Defence Minister has been sitting on a review into our surface fleet since last September. But finally this afternoon, he released a sanitised version of the inquiry's report and announced the government's response. So what's in it? And critically, does it pass muster? Well, the key measures are that the government will keep the anti-submarine frigate program, but reduce the numbers from 9 down to 6. In addition, there'll be 11 new mini frigates that can be built quickly, overseas initially, to give the Navy the firepower it needs, but more swiftly here at home, perhaps, should China threaten Taiwan. Plus, there'll be 6 special missile ships of a new type in reserve for when operationally required. Now, what the government's aiming at is an eventual continuous build of smaller warships in Perth and larger ones in Adelaide. And look, that's fair enough, because we can build naval ships here in Australia reasonably competitively, provided we're always at it without the stop-go, it's called the Valley of Death, the stop-starting programs of the past that have previously bedeviled shipbuilding in this country. So that's what we're getting. The bigger questions out of today are, can we fund it? Can we afford it as taxpayers? And in the end, will it ever get delivered? The Defence Minister today put an extra $1.7 billion on the table. That's real money today. And $11 billion over the decade. Now, if that happens, and it's a big if, that will bring defence spending up to 2.4% of Australia's GDP. Now, 1.7 might sound like a lot of money, and it is, but in the defence portfolio, it's not a lot. And it's the only real money on the table today. Don't get fooled by the $11 billion big number. That's all there in the never, never. Those numbers are not in the budget, meaning they're not yet real. As Greg Sheridan shrewdly observed earlier today, in budget terms, it's all hat and no cowboy. So what about the capability of what the minister's announced today? Is this exactly what we need, given the threat from China to the seas in our north? Well, I can't answer that, because Defence still has to decide between 4 separate designs for this new mini frigate: Spain, Germany, South Korea or Japan. It says it will pick one of them off the shelf, but if that actually happens, it'll be the first time Defence in Australia has resisted the urge to fiddle with any warship it gets from overseas since about the 1960s. And on past form, Defence could still take years, not weeks or months, years, to make up its mind on which overseas design is best. But let's be optimistic for a moment. By about 2040, we should have a much larger and more lethal Navy, provided, of course, we can borrow the money between now and then to pay for it all. Let's hope the communists in Beijing are prepared to wait that long for Australia to be ready.